Screen out the window. On March 15, 2019, a lone gunman killed 47 men and 4 women at both the Al Noor Mosque and Linwood Islamic Centre in Christchurch. I am uncomfortable writing this, but feel I have a duty to acknowledge these events. Succeeding the terrorist attack, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern donned a headscarf and encouraged New Zealand women to support the local Muslim community by following her lead. 6 weeks later, in the wake of the national broadcast of the first Muslim call to prayer, Christian members of Destiny Church stood outside the mosque to proclaim, "Christchurch and New Zealand belong to Jesus Christ, who is the one true God." In the aftermath of the Christchurch Massacre, journalists were angered by what seemed like yet another act of violence committed by a Caucasian male imperialist. Kiwis pointed their fingers. A bloody Aussie had come over and murdered 50 people on Aotearoa Whenua. Divided indeed. A disaster of horrific proportions. Innocent people in place of prayer lost their lives and loved ones because of a singular evil and disturbed brain. However, on the other side of the world, I could not feel the pain expressed in the media and by the New Zealand public. Yet without pain there was guilt, and with guilt there was also a sense of responsibility. But why? I called my good friend Sabir, an Iranian Muslim, to get his perspective. "The thing is, my mate," he said, "if you take the same guy and put him in an Indian society or a Muslim society, he's going to do the same, because some people are looking for extreme things to do, so it doesn't matter where they are or which belief they have. It's simple. It's not a fault of you sharing the same passport. It's just they're the same, and I think that's easy. We shouldn't try and complicate it, because we all know the stories regarding them and how that specific type of mentality works, regardless of being white or Muslim or Hindu or Jew." Sabir grew up amidst the Iraq-Iran conflict of the 1980s, where an estimated 500,000 Iraqis died and 1 million Iranians, including 2 of his uncles. His words had a strong impact on me, and I decided to look further into the details of other terror attacks in March. Wikipedia claims in Afghanistan, India, and Pakistan, a recorded total of 259 people were killed in 30 separate incidents. Of the 259 fatalities, 241 occurred in Afghanistan. The largest attack was a raid in Afghanistan's Sangin territory on the 23rd of March, resulting in 65 deaths. The casualties were Afghan security forces and the perpetrators, Taliban militants. In the Middle East, 142 casualties were recorded over 43 incidents in Syria, Iraq, and the West Bank, 105 of those in Syria. On the 3rd of March, the pro-Al-Qaeda group Ansar al-Tawhid set upon Syrian soldiers in the province of Hama. There were 27 recorded deaths. On the African continent, 370 people were killed in 33 attacks in Mali, Yemen, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Nigeria, Somalia, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Mozambique, Ethiopia, Chad, and Libya. 8 days following the Christchurch Massacre, 160 alone were killed in northern Mali, in what turned out to be territorial and ethnic conflict. Fulani herdsmen were slain with guns and machetes. Whereas in the mainstream media, from The Age to the New York Times, the Christchurch attack was front page news, the Mali slayings were hidden in the back pages. Who says which lives lost are most important? Who determines which countries deserve media coverage? How many deaths have resulted from Western governments selling weapons to the Middle East? And how many innocent people have been killed by military bombs? How many people in the Americas were shot dead in street crimes and domestic disputes March 2019? For these miscellaneous crimes, there is no statistical data. In December 2018, an English backpacker visiting New Zealand, Grace Mullane, was killed in Auckland. She met a stranger via the dating app Tinder and was last seen entering a hotel in Auckland's central business district with him. Upon revelation of the murdered tourist, a media frenzy ensued. In the New Zealand Herald's December 11, 2018 edition, 5 of the top 10 stories were about the victim, Grace Mullane killing. Accused appears in Auckland District Court. Grace Mullane killing. Details of alleged killer revealed. Grace Mullane's body found in Waitakere Ranges. Judge tells Grace's family, "Your grief must be desperate." First image of accused Grace Mullane killer arriving at court. Other articles in the New Zealand Herald included British backpacker's death unnerves fellow travellers. Cops face long slog to find justice for Grace. PM chokes back tears in voicing New Zealand's sorrow. Speaking at her post-cabinet press conference yesterday, Ardern said the murder was a tragedy. On behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologise to Grace's family. Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't, and I'm sorry for that. Her murder was also acknowledged in the Herald editorial. Family's grief for Grace shared by New Zealand. A number of tributes followed. The Auckland Sky Tower was lit up in white. Vigils took place in Auckland, Wellington, New Plymouth, Nelson, Dunedin, Queenstown and Christchurch. Strangers drove across Auckland to where her body was found to lay flowers. I would be hard-pressed to find anyone to disagree. Nothing could be more difficult than the loss of a son or daughter. I feel for Grace's loved ones as I do for those killed in Christchurch. But the reaction from media and the public for the murder of one person was extraordinary. Massacres in New Zealand are not new either. New Zealanders have forgotten the 90s. They have forgotten Aramoana, Parata, Masterton, and Raurimu. From earlier times, they have forgotten Parihaka and the Chatham Islands. It was not until July 14th, when New Zealand lost the World Cup in cricket due to controversial circumstances, that I felt immense pain for the shooting on March 18th. There was an uproar over this unfair sports tragedy, this crime. I could not be sad, gutted or angry, even as an intense lover of cricket and supporter of New Zealand's Black Caps. It was the first time I felt more sadness about the Christchurch Massacre than any of the other horrific events that had occurred and been presented to me in recent times. A corporate sports loss is meaningless when compared to loss of innocent life, at least to me. Unless your phone is off and internet disconnected, it's impossible to avoid bad news. The bad news is not going to stop or slow. It never has and it never will. Bad news transforms into more bad news, while good news is often ignored. In New Zealand, on August 16, 2019, Australian tourist Sean McKinnon was killed by a 23-year-old Raglan man. Sleeping in a camper van with his fiancée, McKinnon was gunned down in a random robbery. While Mullane received multiple vigils, McKinnon's tragic murder was reported for a couple of days before disappearing from the news cycle. Had the Christchurch killings brought an isolated and naive New Zealand into the limelight of tragedy? Had it become like France, Norway, England, Germany, and Sweden? Countries not immune to the craziness we see in the world, despite a stable economy and government. Maybe the brutality of that day in Christchurch put things in perspective for New Zealand. Mullane's murder occurred before the massacre, McKinnon's after it. Could it be that one life lost is no longer a headline? Could the genders of the victims have made a difference in media coverage? Almost a year after her killing, Grace Mullane popped up again, both in The Guardian and the New Zealand Herald. There is an investigation into the possibility of sex play gone wrong. I am embarrassed for Mullane's family and embarrassed for both Britain and New Zealand and their tabloid-obsessed cultures. Bad news sells. Wikipedia guidelines for terrorism definitions have changed since I conducted research for this essay. Data may not match with online search results. It's finished.